The Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? It's the Morgan Thomas Show, another Friday edition of our scouting report. Joining me again is Mr. Dixon, the intern for us this season. Welcome to the show, Dixon.
Glad to be here. Glad to do it again. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting game coming up. I'm ready to see what the Tigers can do. You know, it's Notre Dame game. This is one of the games that everybody had circled on the calendar going into this season, and it's a big game. It's going to, at least as pregame goes, be the game that everyone expected it to be. You've got number one Clemson 7-0, 7:30 p.m. traveling to Notre Dame Stadium, which is a historic place to play against a historic college football team, number 4 overall right now in the rankings. Notre Dame Fighting Irish, 6-0. Both teams undefeated. Clemson played one more game than Notre Dame has. And there's a lot to be excited for, a lot to get ready for, a lot to anticipate going into this game. Vegas has it being pretty close. They've got, I believe Clemson is a -5 on the spread right now, so a little bit under a 1-touchdown favorite into this away game, but might have been a bigger spread if Tigers had all of their starters. As you probably already know by now, Trevor Lawrence, he got caught COVID, and so he's not going to be able to play. Dabo Swinney quickly confirmed that last week, right after the Boston College game, that basically don't anticipate Trevor Lawrence playing. So a lot of the Clemson Tiger fans, including myself, were immediately disappointed, but glad that we knew the outcome at least. And then the other thing that kind of, I think, maybe worries Clemson fans more is that there are going to be 3 key players out on the defense, being Mike Jones Jr., James Skalski, and Tyler Davis. Those 3 players have been starters and were expected to be starters throughout the entire season. Not something that Clemson has had to deal with as frequently as some other teams maybe, but the fact that they're out is a big deal and puts a little bit of stress on the defense, especially the middle of the defense, considering you've got one of your defensive tackles and then you've got a middle linebacker there and then an outside linebacker as well. So lot to talk about, lot to break down, and Dixon's here to kind of help us through. Dixon, when you first think about it, and those players being out, specifically Trevor Lawrence, do you feel like, is Trevor Lawrence the guy that you're most disappointed that you're not seeing, or is there someone else?
It'd probably have to be Trevor. I think that the offense has really missed him the last couple of weeks, and we know DJ did a great job when he stepped in last week. He put up some good numbers, but I think it's going to be. And I heard rumors that he might be on the sideline for that game. I don't know if that's true or not. But I'm sure it's taken a toll on the entire offensive unit to not have him on the sideline with them. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how DJ handles being up in Notre Dame, trying to take them on. I think kickoff is at 7, so it's a nighttime game, so there's a lot of energy around that. But it's probably Clemson's toughest opponent this year. So I think if Trevor was in this spot, I think he would be a lot more prepared, I would say, because he's been in the situation. He's played in a couple national championships, ACC championships, bowl games, etc. But he's been in this arena before. So this is going to be, I think this is going to be a new experience for DJ, and it'll be interesting to see how he reacts. So I'd keep an eye on how he plays today or tomorrow, and just how he handles the pressure and how he manages the offense tomorrow and keeps energy up on Clemson's side.
Yeah, I think the biggest headline is going to be how will DJ Uiagalelei perform in his first road game where he is the starter for Clemson. This is something he's going to have to get used to, obviously, but most Clemson fans, including myself, didn't feel like that it would be something that he would be tested this season. Unfortunately, due to the illness that Trevor Lawrence has and that he's recovering from, it also came from Dabo Swinney that not necessarily that he still has COVID, but they're still going through the protocol to make sure that Trevor Lawrence is healthy, his lungs and his heart are performing as expected. DJ, on the other hand, came in, completed 30 for 41 passes for 342 yards, averaged 8.3 yards per attempt or per catch, and then 2 touchdowns. So his overall QBR was 92.5. If you know anything about QBR, you want it above 90. Anything below 90 is kind of, gets downhill at that point. Not necessarily a good outing. So above 90 is great. One key thing for me, no interceptions last week, and that's always good. You don't want your fresh new quarterback to come in and turn the ball over. And that's one thing when we look at the scouting report. Basically what we're looking at is what is the other team talking about? What are they saying? What are our thoughts? What would we do if we were them? So here's a couple of questions that I'm seeing from the Notre Dame writers out there. The first thing is DJ Uiagalelei. Is he going to be able to operate on the same level as Trevor Lawrence in this road game? I would say it's hard. You really can't. You really don't know. That's the thing. He's going to have to be tested this week. He's going to have to be put under pressure. And I would say that COVID-19 has kind of changed things because he's not really in a packed house like he would normally be. And so I think it'll be a little bit quieter. Maybe he'll be able to focus a little bit better. So I hope that plays into his advantage. But if anything, for me, if you look at the Boston College results, considering he accounted for what did I just say? 2 touchdowns passing and then 1 touchdown rushing. So 3 touchdowns in his first start. I would say that that's a success. Above and beyond what we would have, even asked of him in his first start. I think that's a success. And I think that this kind of player, when you get this kind of elite quarterback, not only is he confident enough to move himself across the country to play football in a state he's never lived in and play away from his family, thousands of miles away from his family, it is, I think for him to be able to do that, there is some confidence there. And so going into this game, I think he's going to be very confident. I think he's going to be ready for it. If you listen to his family talk on Twitter, on social media, on YouTube, his aunts and uncles, his dad, all super confident. So are you very confident? How do you feel? What's your confidence level with DJ?
I would agree with you. I think after last week, there's a lot of good that he did. I think that if he can carry that over into tomorrow, which I think he totally can, I think that being with the kind of coaching staff he's with, being with the teammates he's with, having guys around him that have been in these situations, have been in, game day kind of situations, college game day kind of situations, but just having guys around you that are like, hey, man, we got this, let's go. Getting those pregame jitters out, all that stuff, because he's going to have all that adrenaline flowing before the game, butterflies, etc. So I think that he'll be able to handle the pressure. I think that we've seen a lot of Clemson quarterbacks do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing him come out and throw some good balls to start the game and keep that going throughout the entire course of the game.
Another question that is out there is, does Clemson have anybody other than Amari, Rodgers, and Travis Etienne? And I would say, honestly, probably not. At this point in the season, we've seen that those two young men are really what Clemson uses pushes their offense down the field through. And can you really blame them? I mean, those are the two best players that have proven themselves over not just 1 year, but multiple years playing at Clemson, earning their Tiger stripes, if you will, and being able to carry this team. Travis Etienne, obviously the best running back that the ACC has ever seen, in my opinion, and Amari Rodgers, a great, reliable receiver out there who is really, both of them are very interchangeable. I mean, Amari Rodgers has never lined up at a running back. I think he doesn't have necessarily the true body for that, but I mean, I could definitely see him in a situation where he's, in a wildcat formation or something. He's definitely somebody who could play and move the ball from behind the line of scrimmage. So can Travis Etienne. And I'm not just talking about rushing the ball. I'm talking about also receiving behind the line of scrimmage. A lot of what these two guys do is catch the ball in space, no matter where it's at on the field, and then look for those one-on-one opportunities to take advantage of. So would you agree that Clemson, all they have is Amari Rodgers and Travis Etienne, or would you maybe want to throw somebody else in there?
I think that those are definitely the two primary guys. I think that over the last few weeks and really throughout the course of the season, we've seen guys like Cornell Powell, Braden Galloway catching a couple balls. They've taken a couple into the end zone recently. So I think that they're two to watch for that you may not hear their names called a lot, but I think that they can contribute to the offense just as much as Amari and Travis can. But obviously the key difference there is just who's getting the ball more. And if you have two athletes on your offense like Amari and Travis, then they're going to be getting the ball 90% of the time because you just know, hey, I can give you the ball. You're going to take it to the house, et cetera. You're going to get us good yards every play, whatever. And last week we saw Travis Etienne become the #1 rusher in ACC history. So I think that's huge for Clemson because they have the #1 rusher in ACC history in their backfield. So I think that I agree. I think that Amari and Travis are definitely the two guys that Clemson goes to the most. And I'm not going to take anything away from that. I think that is what it is. But I think that you should watch out for guys like Cornell Powell and Braden Galloway to maybe make a couple grabs tomorrow. And we'll see. I think that they're going to spread the ball around a little bit more to those four guys, and maybe a Frank Ladson here and there. You never know. We'll see how it goes.
I think Frank Ladson is due to kind of improve. I did an article today that talked about Clemson addressing some of the fans saying that Clemson is dropping too many passes. And while they have dropped some passes, really it's been Frank Ladson Jr. that has struggled with that. But if he did catch those passes, if he would just make sure he reels it in before he makes his move, he'd probably have 2 or 3 more touchdowns on his stat sheet and 100 or a couple hundred more yards. So he would be maybe the #1 receiver on Clemson's wide receiving corps. So I think that there's a ton of potential there for Frank Ladson Jr., especially to break out in this game. I don't think that they're going to be able to stop Amari Rodgers or Travis Etienne very much or very for an entire 4 quarters. And it would be nice to see Frank Ladson get in there and make his name known as well, because he definitely, as we have seen, has the potential. Flipping it over to the defensive side of the ball, Clemson's out James Skalski, Clemson's out Mike Jones Jr., Tyler Davis out. That's a big chunk right there. I know I mentioned it earlier on when we opened the show. Considering the fact that Notre Dame's strength is rushing the ball, do you feel that this is where they're going to try to take the most advantage of Clemson?
I think that they will definitely try to do that a lot. I think that you're going to see a lot of inside runs, outside runs, attacking some of the weaker linebackers. Maybe the linebackers don't get a lot of reps. Some of our backups like Jake Venables. Not saying that those guys aren't good. I'm just saying that they aren't as experienced as your starters are. Now, granted, anybody that is coached under Brent Venables is going to be good. They're going to come out on the field and do what they need to do. But I think that you'll definitely see Notre Dame trying to take advantage of the run game. Whether or not it will be totally effective, I can't say, because I do like Balen Spector, Jake Venables. They've both made plays recently. Jake Venables had a good week last week. So I'd be looking to see how they do against that Notre Dame run game. And you talk about the Notre Dame running backs. You got Kyron Williams and Chris Tyree. You'd definitely be looking for some runs from them, and they've put up some great numbers. Kyron Williams actually has 600 yards on the season, and Chris Tyree has about 265. But Kyron Williams will definitely be a go-to. And then not even running back, but quarterback Ian Book, he's been running the ball a lot this year. He's actually, I think, their fourth best rusher on their stat sheet. And we've seen him make some crucial plays on maybe 3rd down and long where he's just taking the ball with his legs and he's gone and gotten the first down. So I think it'll be important to keep that run game in check as best you can if I was Clemson. And I'd definitely watch out for some QB draws or a little QB sneak to come. So I would definitely be looking for that. But I think that the run game is definitely something that Notre Dame is going to try to use and try to be very effective with.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. There's no way that they will be able to move the ball very effectively just passing the ball or trying to be a primary passing team. If you look fantasy stat-wise, I mentioned this on Mark Childress' show Wednesday night. If you look fantasy passing or fantasy points-wise, it's the quarterback, it's 3 running backs, and then you've got a couple of defensive players before you even get, and a tight end, before you even get to their first wide receiver. And so that shows you where their strategy is. It's with their first 3 running backs and then the tight end before they go to the wide receiver. So you know that they're going to try to pound the run game, the entire game, really. They're not going to let up on that. That's their strength. That's what they've been doing all season for 6 games straight. They're not going to just change that for Clemson, and they're really not going to be able to because they don't really have that those pieces in place. So they have to use what's there. Same thing with on the Clemson side of things. Everybody says, well, not everybody, but a lot of people say, well, why is Clemson always passing the ball behind the line of scrimmage? Well, you've got Travis Etienne and Amari Rodgers, and they can make plays in open space, and it's just no different than a run play at that point, and they're really good at that. And so you have to play to your strength, and that has to be your consistency out there. Continuing with the defensive theme, what will Clemson do? Another thing is, they have to use the passing game in some way. And I looked, they've got Bennett Skowronek. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, but he is really their leading receiver, one of their best guys. I mean, he's 6'3", and he's super tall, and he torched Pittsburgh recently. Outside of him, though, you've really got Kyron Williams, which you mentioned is a running back, so not even really a true wide receiver at that point. And then you have the tight ends. So those players are going to really try to take advantage of Clemson. I think it's again a lot like what Miami tried to do, or wasn't successful with, which is a good thing. But use your strengths, which is your tight ends, which is your big guys in the middle of the field. I think that Clemson is typically built for that. But considering Skalski and Jones are out, you're basically relying on Venables and then a true freshman Simpson out there. And another thing, too, what Brent Venables has done when Tyler Davis is out is not replace Tyler Davis. He has removed that position and gone to a 3-down lineman. I don't know if Clemson will be able to do that successfully this week. It worries me as a fan to be able to think that there's one less guy down on the defensive line against a team that is going to be obviously rushing the ball up the middle as their main point of attack. What's your thoughts?
I definitely agree with you on that. I think a 3-man front leaves a lot of vulnerability up that front, because if you get all 5 of your offensive line pushing those 3 guys back, sure, you may have a linebacker blitz, so they may be sending 4 a lot. We'll see. But I think that if you only have 3 guys versus 5 guys, now we know that Clemson's got some really good DNs. We know that they can make plays even if they're being double teamed. But I think that it'll definitely be. I think that it would be a smart move to maybe lean away from the 3-man front just a little bit, because it is a lot more difficult to stop a very effective run game with only 3 down linemen. And I think that Notre Dame would definitely try to target that a lot, whether that be outside runs, inside runs, QB sneak, whatever. But if you have a 3-man front and you're pushing all 5 of your guys, you're getting 3 or 4 yards a carry, easy. So if that's what's happening, it's going to be really hard to stop a run game like that with only 3 down linemen. Because a team that's getting 3 or 4 yards a carry, they can score on an opening drive doing that. They can score any drive doing that. You hand the ball off to your best guy, he takes it right up the middle, 4 or 5 yards a carry. That's easy right there. They're giving it to you. So I think that's definitely something that Brent Venables, I'm sure, has been talking to his guys and making some adjustments, because he knows that just how effective and elusive Notre Dame's running backs are, and how good their running game is. So I would definitely expect to see a change to that. If not, I'm sure Brent Venables has something up his sleeve, and he'll show it to us tomorrow. So,
looking at offense versus defense, Clemson's offense versus Notre Dame's defense, what do you think is the advantage there for Clemson?
I think I would say Travis Etienne and just Amari Rodgers, the guys that we've been talking about. I think that it's been hard for anybody in the country to stop them, and we've seen that. They're putting up ridiculous numbers every game. And I think that it's going to be just the same old. You're going to see a lot of Etienne carries. You're going to see a lot of Amari Rodgers, maybe some wide receiver screens. get a block set up, let him run behind the block. But I think that those are going to be the two primary targets for DJ Uiagalelei, because he's going to want to throw to those guys. They're his number one and number two receivers kind of at this point. So I would definitely be looking for those two guys to have a good game, even against the Notre Dame defense that's pretty good. And we've seen those two guys take apart defenses that are really good, like let me think. Ohio State last year, we saw Etienne have a good game, even against teams this year like Virginia.
Yeah, Miami, Virginia.
Yeah, Miami. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, Virginia. We saw them explode. So I definitely think that those two guys are going to have a good game. I think the Clemson offense is going to rely a lot on them, and I think that they're going to create some plays to get them out in space and get them to make some moves and make some men miss, and get them the ball a lot and get them the carries and let them go score.
So if you're Notre Dame, if you're Brian Kelly, what are you going to do?
I would definitely say, and I've said this a couple times, but gang tackling will be huge, because you see teams who say, like, one guy tries to take down Travis Etienne, not going to happen. Unless you are just a really good tackler and you get him at a really good spot, then it's going to be really hard for one guy to take him down, because we've seen him breaking tackles all year long. I think that it's going to be, and your coaches talk about this all the time, every man to the ball. As soon as somebody has the ball, everybody to the ball. You don't just want to send one guy or two guys. You want to send everybody to the ball. And I think keeping contained tomorrow will be extremely big for Notre Dame, and not letting Etienne or Amari Rodgers, maybe an Amari Rodgers jet sweep, or Travis Etienne on an outside pitch. I think those are going to be crucial to stop, because we've seen those be effective this year. So I think that Notre Dame's going to want to keep contained. They're going to want to do a lot of gang tackling and getting Etienne down quick and not letting him get into space.
For me, I know that normally we would say focus on Travis Etienne as far as like just shutting down the run. So my first thought is shut down the run, shut down Travis Etienne, force the true freshman to beat you on the road, which would be very difficult, considering it. Road games are always difficult for players, and also considering that historically Notre Dame has been great, playing at home, and but they haven't played a number one team in quite some time. I believe it was about 16 years ago they played Southern California at home, and they ended up losing, but not by much, less than a touchdown. And so when they do host people, when they do lose at home, it's not by much. It's pretty close. And so my first thought is, if you go after Travis Etienne in the run game, you're kind of ignoring the fact that Clemson has kind of regressed a little bit in the run game. And what I mean by that is, we've talked many times about the offensive line doesn't look as sharp in the run game compared to the pass game. And Travis Etienne, as we mentioned before, is now being used as basically another wide receiver. He's not, he's still rushing the ball, but he's on pace to be one of the best receivers on the team. And so my thought now is maybe you let him run the ball, because the passing game is kind of where it's at with Clemson. And Notre Dame has the 6th ranked overall passing team, 18th ranked as far as overall defensive pass, effectiveness. So I would say that Notre Dame's strength is the pass defense more than it is the rush defense. So I would really say lean on your strength there, lock down the passing game, and if you can get a turnover from DJ, then I think it really, really helps your case, because I think just about everybody assumes this one is going to be close, and not more than about 10, point lead by whoever ends up winning. So, do you agree that they should? And you can disagree. I'll let you have a pass here. But do you see where I'm coming from? At least from maybe they should rely on their strength. Maybe they should worry about Amari Rodgers passing wise and Travis Etienne passing wise, and lean on the fact that Clemson's offensive line really hasn't been pushing as much in the run game, and maybe focus more on the pass game.
Yeah, I like that. I like that, and I don't think you can ignore the run game, obviously. But I do like what you're saying. I think that it's going to be good for guys like on Notre Dame's defense, like Jack Kaiser, Kyle Hamilton, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa. I think I said that right.
Yeah, he's
But
one of
those
their
guys,
best players. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So those are their best defensive players. And when you think of, like you're saying, the Clemson offensive line not pushing as much as they have been, you're going to look for guys like um, Owusu Koromoa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So your linebackers to get in there and make some plays, some of your better linebackers to get into the backfield. Definitely apply a lot of pressure to DJ Uiagalelei as he's trying to throw the ball. Because that's one thing that's really going to get into a quarterback's head when he's getting hit every time he throws the ball, or he's getting hit as he's releasing the ball, etc. But if you're getting up in his face, it's going to make him stay on his toes a little bit more, and maybe cause him to maybe do some throws off the back foot, something like that. But if Notre Dame can really force him to start doing that, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for him to throw the ball. And like you said, create some turnovers, make him throw a couple interceptions, something like that. Obviously, that would be the worst nightmare for a Clemson fan. But if I'm Notre Dame, I think that's what I'm trying to do. And then if you're getting your best corners on there, like Nick McLeod and Tariq Bracy, you're going to want your best corners on Amari Rodgers and Travis Etienne, whether Etienne's in the slot or Amari Rodgers is in the slot or wherever they are on that field. If they're out for a pass, you want your two best guys on that. And pass defense, Kyle Hamilton, the safety, is actually Notre Dame's leading solo tackler as far as tackling goes. So he's been making some plays this season. And it's going to be I think it's going to be important for him to be able to shut down a lot of the passing game and cover that deep third and make sure that he's not letting anybody behind him and maybe challenging DJ Uiagalelei's deep ball a little bit. So I think that it'll be good I think it would be very wise for Notre Dame to get some of their better corners on Etienne and Amari Rodgers or whoever else is out there. And then definitely have your linebackers applying some good pressure on DJ and getting up in his face, making him feel uncomfortable in the pocket, making him scramble even. Because if you can get him on the run, you force him to throw on the run, which is oftentimes not as accurate as being able to step into a throw in the pocket. But I think that's definitely where Notre Dame is going to look to key on as far as the passing game goes.
If DJ is unsuccessful at running the ball, can Clemson still win?
Running the ball?
Yeah. If they don't use DJ, because his one touchdown was a rushing touchdown. No, he didn't rush very much, but obviously he's one of those players. If he was healthy with his shoulder, he would be probably used a lot more than he currently is. But if DJ, is unsuccessful running the ball, do you think that Clemson can still win?
I think they can, but I think it's going to be a lot more difficult. Because if he can't really run the ball, it means he's going to have to throw the ball more. And like you said, with his shoulder being a little out of whack, doesn't feel the best thrown off of it. Especially like if you try to go deep, if you've got a guy running down the seam wide open and you want him to throw the ball deep, putting some more strain on that shoulder. But I think that if he doesn't really have a great day running the ball. You're gonna want to throw the ball shorter, probably to take a little bit of stress off his shoulder. But you're gonna want to have a lot of design plays to get some guys open in the flat, in the secondary. But you definitely don't want to take a lot of deep shots. And then if he can't run the ball, and you still got to have a running game, obviously you're gonna have to turn to Travis Etienne a lot and let him do what he does best, which is make guys miss, run the ball, be a physical runner. But I think that Clemson can win the game, but it's definitely going to be a lot more difficult.
All right, last question for you. We'll let you go and get back to what you got going on. Again, Morgan Thomas Show every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check us out, Facebook, The Morgan Thomas Show, or YouTube, The Morgan Thomas Show, where you can check out, sometimes I like to write articles. All of us really like to write articles every now and then. Southlandclub.com. We really appreciate the support, everybody that's watching and tuning in. And also, we're all available anywhere you listen to podcasts as well, so go check that out. But Notre Dame, the fans are calling for, we know uniform-wise, Notre Dame or Clemson is coming in with all white, and Notre Dame is going to be the home team, so they're going to wear their colors. A lot of the fans are saying that Notre Dame should wear the green jerseys. So obviously you've got the gold helmets, and then normally they would wear something maybe blue, but this time around maybe they wear their green alternates with blue and gold numbers. What do you think? Will you think that they should wear the green versus white and kind of get that luck of the Irish going a little bit more?
I'd like to see that. I am a big fan of alternate jerseys. I've always been a fan of alternate jerseys. I like the colors. Not that Notre Dame has bad colors, but I think seeing them in green would be very cool, especially at home, especially for arguably their biggest game of the season, especially at night. And you got the number one team in the country visiting you. I think that'd be really cool. It'd be really hype. But I would definitely love to see them in those alternate jerseys. I've seen those; they look really cool. I like those.
Well, Clemson likes to keep it traditional, but and you wouldn't really expect an orange versus green. So let's say no to that. That would be probably a little bit too much of a clash, and not allowed normally. But the white, I love. To be honest with you, the all white uniform of Clemson is one of the nicest. I know that it's like basically no color there, but it's just something about the orange helmet that just pops, and those numbers that just really pop on an all-white, clean uniform. Now, I know that after the game is over with, DJ and Travis and Amari are not going to have a clean uniform, and Brian and Miles and those guys are not. But after the game, then you can kind of see, all the blood, sweat, and tears they went through to win that game, and they laid it out all on the line. So very, very excited to see. Always love the uniforms as well. Is all white your favorite? Maybe one of your favorite, or do you not like it at all?
I do like the all white. I like the all white, but I also like the all orange. But like you said, I think the all white carries an energy of its own. I think I love the orange numbers, like you said, sticking off there, and they're definitely going to have a lot of green on them by the end of the night, for sure. And like you were talking about the blood, sweat, and tears that they went through, I was actually watching a recap of the post-game interview of Dabo Swinney from the 2015 Notre Dame game, and he was talking about BYOG, bring your own guts. I think that's going to be really important for Clemson tomorrow, going into probably a more difficult environment to play in. Obviously, COVID has kind of altered that, but still, it's going to be a test nonetheless. But I definitely think that it's going to be important for the Clemson Tigers to BYOG tomorrow and bring their own guts and get out there and prove to the country what we all already know, and that is they are the best team.
Oh yeah, go Tigers. So what is your prediction here? I actually said we'll just do it against the spread. You don't have to give me a score, but Clemson -5 right now. When we did the show Monday, it was -5.5. I took Clemson, so obviously with it now closer, I'm going to continue to take Clemson to cover the spread. Now, Allen and Houston, I think Houston took Clemson, but Allen did not. He felt like it was going to be too close to call, kind of like the election right now. So what do you think? Can Clemson cover the spread, or are you going to go with Allen?
I like Clemson to cover the spread, and when I say cover the spread, I mean like barely cover the spread. Like I'm talking, I don't think they would win by more than 13. I I don't even think they may win by 10. Like I like them winning by 10. I think you mentioned it earlier, but winning like a 34-24 kind of game. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Now, I'd love to see a blowout. I think that would be absolutely amazing, especially for a Clemson team that didn't really have a blowout last week at all. Didn't even get close to covering the spread. But I think that Clemson's going to cover the spread. It won't be by much, but I think that they can get it.
I like that you're with me on that one. Well, Dixon, what'd you think? I mean, we're going into Notre Dame. All we have to do left now is watch the game.
Yeah, that's gonna be a nail biter for sure. As a Clemson fan who's witnessed the last 5 years of Clemson football, you're used to a lot of blowouts, a couple tight games here and there, and I think this is definitely going to be one of your tight games. I would love for it not to be a tight game, because then I don't have to worry about staying up all night, getting no sleep. But I think that Clemson needs to come out and dominate the first quarter, second quarter, first half, really.
That's all four quarters.
All
Just
four
dominate.
quarters, definitely. All four quarters.
And overtime even still too, yeah.
We don't want to go to
We don't need overtime. So you're a high school senior, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you remember the Tommy Bowden years, or are you kind of like, thankfully not old enough to remember those years where Clemson wasn't blowing people out?
I think I was. Oh shoot. Well, let's see. I might have been 5 or 6 when Dabo came on as the head coach. So really a blur. I can remember I've heard Houston. I've talked with Houston. My parents talking about Clemson when they were not very good at all, and just how they weren't having great seasons. They were winning games, but they weren't running them big. I definitely think that since Dabo took over as head coach, there's definitely been a serious change in how Clemson has won, especially over the last 5, 6 years, blowing some teams out. Winning a couple close games a year. I mean, you see a couple close Clemson games a year, which people who aren't Clemson fans always give Clemson a bad rap for not having a great record. Not necessarily having a great record. They're normally undefeated. But winning, just blowing opponents out, saying they never play anybody. But it's not that they don't play anybody. It's just that they're so good, they're just blowing everybody out. I mean, we saw 2018 National Championship, Clemson, Alabama. Clemson smoked Alabama in a game that I'm pretty sure Alabama was supposed to win. But you saw a Clemson team who was dedicated to their mission. They wanted to win that game, and they came out, executed way better than Alabama did, made them look bad. We played backups against Alabama. You don't hear about anybody doing that. And since then, I've always loved saying that. But I definitely cannot remember when Bobby Bowden was the coach, or Tommy Bowden. But I've definitely enjoyed the Dabo years more than those.
Yeah, I mean, we all have our different eras of Clemson fandom that you live or you're a part of. I know when my dad saw the first national championship game, and he was there when he wasn't at the game, but he was watching it when they won in '81. And my dad also had different kind of feelings when they won in 2016 with Deshaun, and then 2018 with Trevor Lawrence. Definitely very, very thankful for all the stuff that had to endure over the years. For me, being born late 80s, I did have to grow up kind of Tommy West years. I don't remember anything past Tommy West, but Tommy West, Tommy Bowden era, where it was a struggle to try to find ways to beat those elite teams. And you definitely weren't going to be favored in that game. And you definitely weren't going to be favored in a ranked away game. And Clemson is now to that point where just about every ranked away game, they're going to be favored. Whether or not if they're not, they should be. It's just they're a little bit of bias, to be honest, because some people still pick Alabama over everybody, right? But Clemson is an elite team now, something to definitely be thankful for. A huge historic matchup coming this Saturday. Number 1, number 4, undefeated in an historic stadium in Notre Dame. I look forward to it. I know you guys look forward to it. Hey, make sure you like and share this video out with your friends. We want to make sure that all Tiger fans get to be a part of our show. We don't just want to talk ourselves. We want you to be a part of the show as well and get in on the comments, and we like to reply back to you. Don't forget, every Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have our live show. Alan, Houston, and myself all do a live show for about an hour and a half, where we talk Clemson football, we talk college football, and we do picks against the spread and our opinions on what teams you should pick against the spread and what the odds are coming in starting on the week. So kind of an early opening odds prediction from our team there. We do that every single week. And then we have stuff throughout the week. We've got the podcast that comes out Tuesdays. We've got articles that come out through the week on southlandclub.com. And then we do this scouting report on Fridays for the game that's coming up. Now, Dixon, we have a little bit of a break after this because there's no game next week. Clemson will be able to take a break. So, I'll give you the week off. So go enjoy yourself. Spend some time with your family. Do some of your homework. Don't forget your homework. And we'll see you in 2 weeks after this when Clemson gets ready to play Florida State.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Tiger fans, that's it. Again, make sure you like and share the video, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.